Pakistan conference. There's an outrage over Pakistan conference at Harvard. Pak delegates, including Pak Minister of Finance, attending it. Harvard students have written to US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. They're saying that revoke visas of all Pakistani delegates to conference, revoke visas of all Pak officials traveling to the US, don't host representatives of state that promotes terrorists, call for a moral clarity for America in the face of terrorism. This is a breaking news. These are both the letters which I have reproduced. Aditya, can you just take us through this news, and then we can take a opening statement from Ambassador Sikri. I think that's a big news that has come in.
It's a big development really at a time when India is grappling with this terrorist attack and looking at the reactions, and the entire country is seething with rage and emotional about this entire episode. We came to know about this episode of a Pakistan conference that's being hosted by the Harvard University in the United States. Now imagine Pakistan conference being held at a time when Pakistan is sponsoring terrorism, when Pakistan is killing innocent people. What right do Pakistanis really have to have such kind of a conference at a global university of the stature of Harvard? Now there is, of course, students of the same Harvard, Surabhi Tomar and Abhishek Chaudhary, who have written multiple letters to the Harvard authorities and said that you need to cancel this event, you need to end visa assistance and help that you are granting to the Pakistani government officials and others who are coming here. They also demanded that issue a public statement condemning the Pahalgam terror attack and support for victims of the religious-based violence. This is a huge development. These are letters that have come out from Indian students in Harvard to the Harvard authority. The letter also says, provide emotional and institutional support to affected students through the Office of Equity, Diversity, Inclusion and Belonging. So this is a very significant development, and Kartikeya, let us put this in context. What's been happening over the last few years in US universities, a lot of anti-India propaganda, particularly on Kashmir. On Israel, of course, where the Israel government has reacted, Donald Trump has also said that he would stop funding for several of these universities and act in a manner where anybody taking law into their own hands, anybody violating the US government norms in these universities will be arrested, will be deported. And there are cases where people have been deported.
Let me quickly take a reaction from Ambassador Sikri. Madam, these are places of learning, good places, Wharton, Harvard, Stanford. But why do these liberal laws get weaponized against countries like India? Why in the name of liberalism, liberal politics or democratic norms, they fail to distinguish between people who are actually causing or providing ideological framework to terror activities in country like us, and not seeing it from our perspective and seeing from the perspective of human rights? Why this conflation happens, madam?
Well, this is something that has come into UN universities, American universities, and even Oxford and Cambridge for the last several decades. And this is something that we have to, as India, as Indian citizens, as Indian students, and I'm so glad our students are speaking out, that we have to take it up very strongly and not allow it to continue. And I must say that one of the additional points of outrage about what is happening at Harvard University is that this is happening at an institute sponsored by none other than Lakshmi Mittal. I mean, this is an institute led by Lakshmi Mittal, one of India's leading lights in business, and he has sponsored this entire institute. First of all, there was always anger that why on earth is he sponsoring an institute at Harvard and calling it a South Asian institute instead of an Indian institute of studies, because there are very few institutes that study Indian, approach to issues, and in the garb of South Asia, they plug lines which are not in India's interest. And secondly, the very fact that this conference on Pakistan is being allowed to go ahead at a time when the world, as you said quite correctly, and Mr. Ditya Kaul also mentioned quite correctly, that the world is with India because they know that India is right, that these are Pakistani terrorists who have come in and attacked innocent tourists in Pahalgam. Now, Pakistan is being very general and vague and saying, oh, we want an inquiry and we want Russia and China to conduct the inquiry, and that's the kind of area they're talking about. But actually, the world is not waiting for all of that. The world has given its verdict. They know that these are terrorist attacks. They know that they're supporting India. Why is Harvard University bucking that trend? I think we should take it up very strongly, and we should really protest against what they're doing, but we should also protest with Lakshmi Mittal and say, why on earth is he allowing this to happen? So this too has to come into this point, because this is a very important issue that has disturbed a lot of people. Throughout the day today, there have been a lot of claimants on this, and a lot of people feeling strongly on this aspect.
Okay. Your opening comments on this, General Kulkarni, and then I'll go to General Meston.
as regards the Harvard is concerned, or the
Ab-
Pakistani?
Absolutely, sir.
Uh, Definitely, I think it's time that we call this bluff. And Pakistanis, if I understand, I'm sure the ambassador would know, they would pay, I don't know what amount to some of these people only to create a narrative in favor of Pakistan. Even going up to Senate, going up to anywhere and everywhere, and creating a kind of an ecosystem that favored only the Pakistanis and going anti-India. I'm glad these kind of things will be called up. And even now, when Trump himself is sure taken very strong steps in the US, where they ever spoke for Palestinians, they were all thrown out of the various universities. So these kind of a thing, universities mustn't be utilized and used for these kind of purposes, irrespective of whatever it may be. A democracy, yes, but they are there to study, and therefore they must not even be encouraged to host these kind of events over there. And definitely, I'm glad that such a thing has happened. Having said that, just on that ceasefire thing that we were on the similar agreement that we were talking about, let it be clear, Pakistan never adhered to the similar agreement, right? I'm sure the ambassador will agree, because all disputes were to be settled between the two of us bilaterally. It was never ever done bilaterally. Pakistan continued to do it internationally, and therefore I think the similar agreement in any case was defunct for a very long time, except that there and where the ceasefire, like in Siachen, the ceasefire is holding since 2003. So that's some good step, but most of them, I think Pakistan must be blamed for it. Yeah.
Very quickly, very, very warm welcome to Rami Niranjan Desai. Thank you, Rami, for joining me. You have come straight at a point of time when we are breaking a big news on how a Pakistan conference is being organized in Harvard. A quick comment from General Messin, then I'll come to you, because this was not something part of our show, but this news we are breaking right now is very, very important. How a site for learning is being weaponized, and those people who, in the name of I would say human rights, are trying to create a wrong impression of what's happening in Kashmir. It's not a human rights issue, it's an issue of terrorism. It's wrongly debated, wrongly put out. General Meston.
Yeah, absolutely, Kartikeya. I think education institutes all over the world, they should not be encouraged to do all this nonsense of, supporting Pakistan. And I think India should today go full throttle and get Pakistan declared as a terrorist state. And simultaneously, regarding a diplomatic front, and we may even send a all-party delegation to Middle East and all these countries to start telling the world that the Pakistan is a sponsor of state terrorism. It has affected the whole globe, epicenter of terrorism, and therefore students need to be on watch. And no delegation of Pakistan should be allowed to even come to any country like this Pak conference of 2025. And even Harvard, I think we need to take up with them how the hell they are talking about hosting a Pak delegation for this 2025. So India needs to go full throttle. I think all possible pressures should continue on Pakistan 24/7. Kartikeya.